Okay, we are rolling. We are back
Let's
from
go.
a
So, okay,
recess,
Mark.
and we are now going to discuss our proposed revenues for 2011.
Yeah, this is the kind of budget picture that we're at now, and I will just say as a caveat, as we've indicated to the Assembly, in terms of our request that was approved to have the budget extended, the two biggest pieces we're waiting for is information on the sheriff's, how much we're going to have to carry for the
Retirees health insurance.
for the retirees' health insurance and the retirement assessment piece. They're still calculating that. As you know, Kathy Riley's working on that, so that needs to be done fairly soon. I have carried in here $1.6 million, and I believe that's a conservative number on the expense side for those amounts. I anticipate that number will come down. Just to go over the revenues a little bit, county tax assessment is on the 2.5% increase piece. Same with the Cape Cod Environmental Protection Tax. I actually reduced the Registry of Deeds amount that anticipated to be collected a little bit more in line with where we are right now. But I think there's some flexibility in that number if we had to. I think that's a very conservative $6,750,000. I think we've got some room to play with that. Courthouse rental, I upped to $1.5 million. We did submit a schedule of costs to the state that is a total of $1.687 million, $1,687,000. That does include $68,647 in administrative costs, and given the state's budget, I anticipate that those, in fact, may be disallowed, as they often are when budget times are tough. But that would still give us a collection of about $1.6 million. So I think that $1.5 million number is a conservative number. The grant contracts are calculated as what, in terms of what I know about, and are matched with expenditures on the expenditure side in each of the Extension, Health, Commission, and Children's Code budgets. So those are both ins and outs, the grant contracts, as is normal. And then on the department revenues, you see a significant increase in Cape Light Compact. Really all of the staff over there are paid for now out of the Energy Efficiency Fund. And the other significant item I would point to, as I mentioned when Jack Mead was here and Dave, I matched the Registry of Deeds on their department revenues, their business revenues. I matched that to their budget amount. So, and I think there's some room to play there. Actually, we're collecting at a little bit higher rate, as I mentioned, than $2.8 million now, even this year. So there might be some room to play with there a little bit as well on that revenue number.
This is the revenue from this.
That's their fees and
fees.
charges. Yeah, it's called their business revenue.
Okay,
Copy
their
fees,
business
all that
revenue.
other
Okay.
stuff, yeah.
Okay.
That's the $25 he mentioned from a
Right.
mortgage. So. Dredge is an enterprise, so that also matches their budget number. The health lab revenue I kept steady this year since we're not quite ready to move them into their new location, which we anticipate revenues increasing. Septic repair program reflects a new staff person that they are hiring, but that is out of the septic repair funds that we have. There's no county funding associated with that. I left Fire Training Academy revenue steady at $200,000. Cape Cod Commission fees, they did increase those a little bit, just slightly, in terms of their anticipated intake. I did include license plate funding for the rest area in the facilities budget. That will keep us open for the full season.
That includes the spring.
I believe it does,
and
yes.
winter.
Yep, I believe I have that in there as well.
Two springs, one summer.
No, I'm sorry. Because the spring of this year, we'd have to do supplemental.
Oh, that's right.
Because this is effective
Okay.
July 1st.
Okay,
So
this is for July.
we'll have to do something if we choose to do that. And then bond issue revenues, most of those, I believe, are associated with the facilities department.
Excuse me, I'd like to go back to the rest area.
Yeah.
Where are you getting the money from?
The license plate.
Okay, so you're not anticipating any money from the chambers of commerce or anything like that?
Nothing's
as far as
happened.
revenue?
So it's just ours again.
So in other words-
Last, when we talked, my thought was if you could hit each chamber up for about $1,000, I think
Yeah.
it would be fine. Basically, they said if they could come up with $100, they would be doing well. So you're talking about. You're
They're
basically
decimating.
talking about paying for the
They've been
light bulbs.
decimating.
You know what I
I'd
mean?
say.
It's
I get,
just-
I get
yeah.
that part, that they don't have a lot of money, but one of the issues when this comes up all the time is that we continue to fund it, we get to a crisis mode where we run out of money, and then it's put on us again because it's our fault that we put the money in there to begin with. And I just wonder, how do we make clear to the chambers of commerce that this is something that benefits the whole Cape? We appreciate that, but we need to get some participation because it's something that supports the commercial activity down here.
I believe where we left it with Dave Willard was he was going to try to come up with a match
Okay.
From the Chamber of Commerce.
from the Cape Cod Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
Well,
That was
I
the
think
goal,
that's good to know.
is to come up with a match.
Okay, good. Well, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah. But I mean, in terms of the small local chambers,
No, you
We've
can't do
tried
that.
that. We've met with
They're
all
the
of
ones
them.
that get.
They
the,
can't even manage what they have,
yeah,
with what they've got.
No, but the large Cape
But the
Cod,
large
it does have.
And they've
license.
closed the rest area.
they do. Dave pointed this out. And I won't say no.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
keep going. All right.
So that's the revenue picture, about 22
Now,
million.
Cape County Commission shared resources. That's that's not what I wanted. to add.
No, there's nothing on
No,
that.
there's nothing on that.
Now,
So
the
you-
interest income, what does that relate to?
As you know, well, we had money in the bank,
Right.
and we earn interest on it, and that's what that is.
What did it used to be before the?
In the good old days,
before last year?
$250,000.
That's what I thought. Okay. And the reserve, that's the reserve.
No,
That's about the same.
That's for the Cape Cod Commission. That's their rollover amount. And as you notice, for us, our treasury balance, that is assuming how much our reserve rollover is, it's zero. It's next to the bottom line.
I see it.
no, wait a minute.
Oh.
The
So you're
retail-
saying-
It says interest income, where is this reserve listed here?
Okay, good. So now you're on interest income, Bill. Yeah. And the next item, I'm sorry. The next item down is the county commission shared resources. That's zero. That's how much
Right.
we used to contribute to the Cape Cod Commission.
Right.
Then the regional service initiatives. Remember when we were doing the shared conservation agent, we would receive revenues for that. We're not doing that anymore, so that's zero. Then the Cape Cod Commission Environmental Protection Fund Reserve. That's how much their rollover amount is.
Now, is
At
that
the end of the
amount-
year, that's the 290.
Is that the amount that they've used for the attorneys?
No,
No,
this is just
no.
at the end of the year they have a rollover amount it's like a free cash amount
Unencumbered, right.
at their bottom line. That's how much they're going to use
Non-spent.
But
next
it's
year.
not, it's not part of the mitigation money that they're holding.
It had
No.
nothing to do with mitigation money. No.
Unspent money from the
Exactly.
previous
From there,
fiscal year.
it's essentially the Cape Cod Commission's general fund.
Right.
Then then you get the subtotal of the department revenues. Our year-end I should probably take that line
You know,
item out.
technically,
We'll
that's not revenue, that's just money that's held over, right?
Well, but it's revenue to next year. You're always on a fiscal year basis in municipal accounting. So at the end of the year, you calculate up your kind of general fund balance, and if you choose, you use some of your rollover amount into next year, and that's what they have proposed to do, as they do every year. As you see,
Yeah,
the
I
year
know.
before was a little bit more.
Thank you.
And we are proposing not to do that this year for the county general fund, and that would be that next to last treasury balance line item.
Treasury
Right.
balance reserve.
Okay.
You think there won't be any money left over?
There might be, but I'm not saying
not
we are
gonna
assuming
suggest-
that there will be or that we will use it.
So you don't think there'll be any money left over this year?
No,
This
there's
fiscal year?
143,000.
That was
That was last-
that was from last year to this year. From this year to
To
next
next
year,
year.
which is what we're
You
talking
think-
about. There may be money left over, but I'm not assuming that we will need to use it in this budget
Oh,
to
I
balance the
see.
budget.
Oh,
So if there's money left over, basically it's reserve. It's like free cash.
How do we protect ourselves as we go over to the assembly against people who say that they want to use our reserves to fund programs that they're interested in?
How have we protected ourselves in the past? Same way. I mean, we still have the reserve money that we've set aside. It's still
Now, the
haven't
reserve
changed
money
at all.
is the capital money that we put aside for the building, for example. I think we put
It's an
aside-
encumbrance, so that's
Okay.
completely set aside.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's not part of this.
It's not part of this calculation.
Do we have a figure as to what our reserves are right now?
Yes, I do. Yeah, it's exactly the same amount. It's not changed.
143?
143.
It's more than that. If you
Is
include
it
the
100
bill,
and 100 and a half?
it's like 3,200,000. Off the top of my head. Oh,
Oh, it's in the report.
it's right in here. Yeah. Just gotta go to the treasurer's report. Page 21, page 20. So you see the legal
Unreserved
reserve.
fund balance, 3,449,000.
Okay, so,
So you're looking, that's the capital projects fund. So we'll have to issue bonds to cover that. So we'll have to issue some bonds this year. But you see the
Oh,
total
that's it.
fund balance under the general fund, 6.3. And then you have certain items that we've set aside, the statutory reserve, the encumbrance reserve, that's for all the encumbrances we have.
Oh, wait,
Continuing,
I'm not,
I'm sorry, could you send me the page of that again?
yeah, page 20.
how far down the page are we looking
Okay,
at?
if
The
you-
First of all, you have to go to
statutory
one
the-
of it on the page.
Just want to look at the column that says general fund, right?
Right,
So
I
you
see.
need
column
general
that
fund.
says, okay, yeah, I got
General
that.
fund, right, got
So
that.
at the end of '09, the general fund balance was 6.342 million. See that number?
No?
It's the first number you come
Yeah,
to
it's
in the
total
general
fund
balance.
balances. Okay, so instead of being at the bottom, it's at the top.
Well, it's because you haven't taken care of business yet.
Okay,
So
so
there's
right,
some money there,
so
all
right now, in hand, you have 6.3 million.
Right. So
I
there's a bunch
don't
of stuff you
see
need
that.
to do with that.
Right. and
I
then-
would like to find that note, oh, there, okay.
Okay.
Total fund balance,
All right,
okay.
and right now you have 270,000 in a statutory reserve.
That's our statutory reserve. So
You got a
you
million
subtract
in
that, set that
encumbrance.
aside.
Oh, I see.
Then you have a bunch of encumbrances out there.
Right.
If somebody's got a bill they're going to send you, so that's $1 million.
Right.
Then you have continuing appropriation reserve. That's projects that we have funded but have not gotten to the point where there's an encumbrance for them yet. And that's actually, Bill, I should say that's where the $1 million for the health lab
Health lab.
relocation is in. It's in that number right there. So there's that. You've set that aside. So then we have a fire training capital reserve
Mhm.
of 100,000. We have our workers' comp reserve 100,000. So those are those particular reserve items. Then
Okay, go back to the fire training capital reserve.
yeah,
Is that something that could be tapped to repair this door?
all of this money is general fund money. It's what you would call fungible. You can use it for anything you want.
Okay,
And it says capital. yeah.
okay, because if that's the case, and I know the benefit of how much money they'd save on energy, on energy efficiency,
hmm
it might be something you might think about.
So what you could do then is then going to the revenue page,
Right.
you would turn, and since in his expenditure number is 5,500 for the expense of those
Yeah.
doors, you would probably put, and this is what I would do, is under your treasury balance you put $5,500 because you're using your reserve to
Right.
fund that particular line item.
Okay,
That's
well,
what you would do.
personally, I would be encouraged to do that.
Okay, so that's something we could do.
Yeah,
And then on
we
this
could-
page, when
Yeah,
you got
let's
to
do
this
that.
at the
When
end
we
of
get
this
to the
year,
point where we
We're-
actually vote the
We're
budget.
listing,
Yeah.
leave
we're
that
listing
in there.
things we
Yeah.
need to
That's
do
why
and how much it's gonna
suggesting
cost.
it.
Yeah.
Right, no, that's a, so make a note of that, that we'll revisit that.
okay? That's
Now,
certainly something
the
to
other
consider.
part is that we've been asked in the wastewater budget, for example, 175,000 to support the circuit rider.
Yep.
And I don't think, based upon the projection you made in revenue, that we have enough revenue to cover that. So I wonder if that.
Hold on, wait, let's get there.
Okay.
I don't think you're quite right.
Oh, good.
So let's get there. So then, let's go back to the county, the treasurer's report, okay? Because I think this is helpful. So then, after you pass your workers' comp reserve 100,000, these are all subtracted numbers from your total fund balance at the end of the year. then 143,485. And as Sheila pointed out, that's what we are assuming we need to use in this fiscal year, 2010, to balance the budget. So that's set aside, set that aside automatically. That's in the reserve account that was granted to us from the 2000 charter change, the receipts reserved for appropriation. So that's where that one goes. So that matches. Then we have the other reserves also granted under the 2000 charter change, what we call our stabilization fund, and that's 450 in legal reserve, 300 insurance reserve, 540,000 in unfunded pension liability reserve, and early retirement liability reserve, 150,000. Those again are all fungible. Like, what is that?
but
5,
on the,
6, 9, about $1,440,000 on those particular
On
ones.
the unfunded pension liability reserve, does that help us with Gatsby?
It could. That was certainly one thing that we could certainly use that for. Yes.
And I guess I'd look for a recommendation from you at some point as to whether or not that's an appropriate transfer, or
Well,
what our
we should have
exposure
a
is.
separate GASB 45 discussion.
Right.
The trouble
Yes.
with that is it's a drop in the bucket. That's part of the problem.
Right.
Part of the issue with GASB. It doesn't accomplish what you would want it to accomplish.
Okay, but how much pressure are we under to show some degree of compliance with Gatsby?
Not too much.
I was going to say none.
None, yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, I think
Well,
that's an
they're
important
not
question to
pushing
know.
it because they know municipalities.
Right.
don't
This is a
have
long-term
money.
issue. You
Very
can't
long-term.
stick your head in the sand about it, Bill. I
That's what I'm
agree
saying.
with that. Now I lost Sheila's pen too. And it's an issue that's out there, and it's hanging a bit like a sword of Damocles over us, just like the pension system was years ago before they started a funding mechanism for it. But the fact of the matter is nobody that I know of, and certainly on the Cape, is got the wherewithal or the budget to deal with that.
Okay, thank you. You've answered the question.
That's
So
all they can do to keep up with the health insurance.
it's all that they can do with that, and with police and fire and
Right.
schools and DPW, and we're talking about core items here. So okay, so that's the stabilization fund, and as I said, that's about $1,440,000, I think, if I did my math quickly in my head. And there's another typo here because then now the commas aren't there on our capital improvement reserve. That amount is significantly lower. It's about $816,000 if I did my math right there, because we took $1 million out of that and moved it into the appropriation reserve because it's an appropriated amount now. So there's about $816,000 in our capital improvement reserve. And I should say, those are cash. Those are cash. Those are physically, we have cash in the bank to cover those reserve amounts. And so then you see our unreserved fund balance as of the end of the year was $583.68. And that's how they all work. All of them work that way. Capital Projects Fund has a negative balance because, as you know, with Capital Projects Fund, you're authorized to spend the money, then you issue long-term debt to cover those expenses, and we will need to do that. We hadn't done that for a while.
Where have you got a negative balance identified in this?
See, move over one column, Capital Projects
Oh,
Fund.
sorry.
Yep.
Okay. You moved over.
And you can tell how much we spent from each of the encumbrance and the continuing appropriation reserves on that, and then the total at the bottom. Same with Cape Cod Commission Fund, same with the jail.
Okay, got it.
Jail fund. So that's how those work.
And you had gotten some information again on, I don't know if that's under, I guess it would be under expenditures, on the exposure that we have going forward for the health insurance for the retirees.
But we're waiting on the sheriff's retirees. We're waiting on that. That will be a crucial item. Hopefully, that will come out to our satisfaction. And then, the other item is the calculation of the retirement assessment that's left for the retirees associated with the sheriff, and hopefully that will be a good number as well.
Okay.
So, and then all of the numbers on the expense page are as requested. So as I indicated, there's several that will go down. There's a couple that may go up a little bit.
On the county commissioner's budget, I talked to you about the Orleans employment office.
We have to factor that in. That's why I said there's a couple that'll go up because now the EDC piece is gone since there's no EDC operating budget. So
Are we all on board to not to have that as a budget discussion?
Yeah,
I am.
because there's no budget.
I am.
Yeah.
Now, how would we answer the question that might be asked as to what the EDC activities are that they will go
Bob
up?
Troy is gonna,
He's sending us a memo that says that the monies that come from the state come directly to the county commissioners.
Well, we knew that.
Well, yes, but they also do not need appropriation by the assembly.
not subject to further.
They are not subject to any further appropriation.
That's
they've been
the new
appropriated
wrinkle, yeah.
once.
That's-
You don't have to, you can't appropriate twice.
Yeah, because that would make it like in most of the grant funds where we just transfer.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's how it should be treated, when Bob Troy took a look at it.
That's actually how the jail money came over from
Yeah.
the state. It actually specifically said not subject to further appropriation
Mhm.
because they didn't want you monkeying with it.
Right.
We've allowed that for many, many years, and I think it was because of the piece that we were supporting for the salaries.
I think that's how it got
that's how it got
into
over,
that
yeah.
mode. And now that there isn't, but even if there were a salary, suppose the EDC wanted to hire somebody for, say, $10,000 a year or something like that on a part-time basis, that would not have to go to the assembly.
Just
No,
to-
you could
Just
direct
yes.
that.
You could direct
You would
it.
have to
We-
vote to approve it.
We would have to vote to
Right.
approve it, and that's as far as it would go.
Yep.
Okay.
So basically, what I'm saying is I expect that $1.6 million number to be adjusted and to be adjusted down. And even if it's not, then we will be able to, I believe, since we've got a conservative revenue piece, adjust some revenues up and some expenditures down to get this to a balanced budget. But I really do anticipate that public safety $1.6 million to be adjusted down significantly.
Yeah, so you think that'll happen next month?
I believe so,
February?
yeah. Well, we'll get a better picture a week from, next Tuesday at our retirement meeting. Hopefully we'll have some numbers by then. But it'll be March before the sheriff's retirees thing clears up, I think.
Now, as we look at this in a general way, are we getting any comment or any pressure from the human service people?
I will go back to Bill's point. I don't mean to skip it, Bill. So Andy's 175,000 currently is in there.
It is.
It is.
Oh, it's in the expense line.
Yeah, that's the 319.
Okay, because I
It's
think
in
of
there.
all of the things that we're doing, I think that we have to focus on that. I was
Yeah,
very
we do.
concerned that Andy was quoted in the paper saying we've lost ground, because we have. And I think that this is the time to try to make sure that we maintain that line item.
Everything that's been requested is in there.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
where is the 319? Where is that 175?
It's within the.
It's in the
That's-
319.
Yeah.
His budget pieces, I don't have it in front of me, but it had
If you look at,
his line items. He had 175 for the grant program. He had
And indeed, when I went to, to Barnstable,
It's gonna be-
the CAC meeting, that was one of the things that was brought up, that they,
It's right here.
that would
It's,
meet one of the participants in the
Oh,
meeting,
here.
not one of the committee
water,
members.
I think
water
I-
initiatives.
Did I copy you on
Here's the
that?
I
319.
think you did.
second.
I think you will
I think I
hear
get
a
that.
request for
And-
some more money
I got it.
today from the HRC. I think you will hear a request for more. Beth only included a level funding, but you'll probably hear a request for
And
more
that,
from
we don't have to
them,
make
but-
that decision today, but
Yeah,
that's,
but-
we can hear their argument.
Yeah, we can
But
hear it.
aside from
Yeah.
that, I haven't heard anything either in any level.
Okay. But anyway, I can't stress strongly enough how important it is to continue to show that we're really behind the wastewater activity.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
the regional initiative
Yeah.
for this,
Right.
for
And-
this
and-
budget,
and
for
it-
sure.
But let's not forget about the fact that every decision that we make on this budget is supporting regional programs. There are about 60 regional programs that we've looked at so far that the budget says that these are the regional initiatives that we're supporting for the next year. These are the things that we're voting on, and this is what our policy is stating.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the track we're on right now. We'll have more discussions. I have one other thing before then we can kind of recess for lunch.
Okay.
I am going to give you a copy of the package of the application that we received for the recovery zone facility bonds. As
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Mhm.
we have an allocation to Barnstable County of $8.56 million for recovery zone facility bonds. We put together some application materials, and we received an application from the Forestdale Village project.
Oh, yeah.
So I want you guys to take a look at that.
Right.
When do
And
we have
we
to
can-
sign off on
I was going to suggest that maybe next week we can take this up, and you guys can make a determination
it?
if
Okay,
you
and
want
then
to do that.
after appropriate advertising,
Allocation.
this is the only application we've gotten.
That's the only one we have that so far. There, you'll see as part of his submission package, there are a number of endorsement letters from.
I believe Terry Murray was one of the ones that endorsed it.
Exactly. One from Senate President Murray, from the town, from Bud Dunham, Council on Aging, Sandwich Housing Authority.
And I have received calls and conversations with people in Sandwich that on these boards that are all very supportive and very enthusiastic about this as being a
Senator Kerry's office.
great opportunity for actually not only for
Representative Perry.
Sandwich, but for the Cape, especially for the Upper Cape.
They meet all of the requirements from our application, I should say. I had discussed this. I know they've been in touch with Mass Development, and as you know, Mass Development would be the issuer of the bonds. I think Mass Development, in their discussions, they had some concerns about some pieces of the development being eligible, but because of the size and nature of the development in terms of its cost, I did not think that would impact the allocation of the $8.5 million if we wanted to do that. So
they're asking for $8 million.
they're asking for the full allocation
The
at
full
this point. Yeah.
And this,
They actually may be seeking additional allocation if available from other parts of the state.
Okay, and what is our role in this? We are the conduit of that money and the fiscal agent?
Your role is to do the allocation. Once you do the allocation, then the applicant goes to Mass Development, works out all the details. Mass Development, and has to be done by December 31st of this year, would actually issue the bonds on behalf of the developer for that
Okay.
project.
So our vote is to support the allocation.
Correct, that's all you have to do.
And our exposure in terms of financial liability is to make sure that we provide some accountability for this money.
No, it's beyond the allocation. There is no.
Who
There
is
is
the
no
accountable
committee.
agency after that?
Mass Development.
Okay, so Mass
Because they're-
Development then assumes the responsibility after we've essentially made an allocation and a recommendation.
Yeah, essentially, Mass Development would be working with the developer. The bonds obviously would be issued in the developer's name, so they would be responsible for the debt payments on the bonds. And Mass Development helps facilitate the bond issue.
Now, when we went through this before, there was a lot of information that we were given. Is there any essential additions to that information in here?
No, I think in terms of the application for the facility bonds, you have everything that I have.
Okay, so good.
And where is the commission on this? The Cape Cod Commission?
Paul informally I know they have a
A DRI or
A DRI, thank
Right.
you. They have a DRI before the commission.
Okay.
Yes.
And my
They've
other
been working
question
with the
is-
commission
Is
on that project.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Is the
So we'll get an update from them.
8.6
too.
million just a one-time source of money for the county?
Yes, it's part of the
Just-
ARRA.
And it'll never
stimulus.
happen again? This is
Well,
it? It's the only time we'll
Never
get
is a
it?
long time.
Well, I know.
Right now, this is what's been authorized.
This is, and
Okay,
that
this
is
is the
not
money
an
that's out there.
annual funding mechanism
No,
or
it's
anything
based
like
on,
that?
it's a weird formula about, it's based on our allocation for the facility bond is only 8.5 million, as you know. Plymouth, I think, got 26 million.
Maybe that's how they're gonna go to fire.
So, well, for the facility bonds, municipalities aren't eligible. So these are
No, it's
really,
the Plymouth County.
yeah, but municipalities, public
Yes,
entities
yes.
are not
If you-
eligible for the
Plymouth
facilities.
County itself
fund.
cannot
I
use
know,
it. It has
but-
to allocate it to a private developer.
Yeah, they would have to allocate these to
Because
a
Because it's
private
mass
entity.
development,
It's
it's
a
not
private
One of
municipal
entity.
these,
development.
There are
rapid-
other bonds, I can't remember the name of them, that are eligible
For
for,
municipal-
but they're taxable. So it all depends on the spread between the muni rate, essentially, and the taxable rate. And I did some quick calculations that basically indicated if you could issue muni debt at 4%, and the taxable rate was about 7.69, it was cheaper to issue the muni debt. And that's why I don't think there's been, I think statewide there's been almost zero interest in the muni bond piece of this.
All right, anything else you want to talk about? Other
I gotta
than
be-
we
unless you
go
have
into
something else.
That
recess
was it for
until
me
1
for
o'clock?
now,
1
until
o'clock?
I'm gonna do
1
just
yeah.
an errand and I should be be back, so I'll
Excellent.
check in with you guys. And you gonna have lunch here? What are you gonna do?
I don't know.
I'll give you